Welcome to Talk to Me. I'm Esther Mills. Our guest is Dave Gallagher of Dave Gallagher's All-American Baseball Academy. He also played in the major leagues. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
How old were you when you first started playing baseball?
Takes me back quite a ways. I was about 7 years old.
7 years?
And my father put me into a church league. It was the first competitive baseball I've ever played. I still remember it like it was yesterday, stepping into the batter's box, and the very first pitch that was thrown to me, I swung and missed. And I remember looking out at that pitcher, another 7-year-old kid, and thinking, oh, I get it. This is competition. He's trying to make me look bad in front of these people. And I absolutely loved that feeling. And from that point forward, I was hooked. And even way back then, if you would have asked me, what do you think you want to do when you grow up, my answer was, oh, I'm going to play Major League Baseball. I would say if you would compare me to other Major League players, that I would say I was good at a lot of things and great at nothing. And I don't mean that to put myself down. Yeah, I think I had to be very good defensively, very solid with my fundamentals, could hit for a good average, hit for a little bit of power but not a lot, steal some bases but not a lot. So it was a combination of everything that allowed me to get there. Maybe that's why my path to the major leagues was so long. Because if a scout goes to watch a player that is good at a lot of things but great at nothing, he doesn't really jump out at you. Who jumps out at you is the guy who hits 3 home runs over a 2-game set, or someone who steals 6 bases over a 2 or 3-game set. That's the guy usually that gets noticed.
So it took a while for you to stand out or stand above the competition.
Exactly. That is what managers who I played for would always say. You have to see Dave over a month or a 2-month period to realize how many ways he helps you win. So now for me to play this game professionally, I needed them to support me to the organization and say, this is a guy you have to have on your roster.
To point you out.
Yeah, I needed them.
Which is maybe a little bit of a different tactic.
It is.
Than maybe some of the other players needed.
Oh, without a doubt. And sometimes when you're a young professional player, you resent that a little bit. You can't help it. With guys who have more talent, you start off by saying, why are they always chosen ahead of me? And in time, you realize it's just the way it is. It's nothing fair about it. It's
nothing
just
personal.
It's nothing personal. They are more talented. Sometimes, as it is in everyday life, those who are more talented maybe lack other things. So they can be passed, and I'm living proof of that. There was plenty of players who I was able to pass, and it might be the way I went about, how I acted, a simple thing like that. Just the way I went about my profession, how I prepared, what kind of a teammate I was. And like I said, being fundamentally sound, things like hitting the cutoff man or moving a runner over, whereas some guys who had more talent weren't able to accomplish those little things and would kind of slide back behind.
And it is about all those little things
to
win
a
game.
Of ways, exactly, to be a good teammate.
You're originally from New Jersey?
Yes, born and raised, born in St. Francis Hospital, grew up in Hamilton, and went to school at Steiner High School, and then right over to Mercer County Community College, where I was drafted and signed in, 1980. My final spring training before I made it to the major leagues was with Jim Fregosi. It was with the White Sox, and I walked in. I was a non-roster player invited to major league spring training, and I walked in.
Like a walk-on in a way?
Kind of. I mean, you're invited, but you're not on the roster.
Right, right.
Rarely do those guys make it. The very first day of spring training, I asked if I could speak to him in his office at the end of the first day. I'm 27 years old. I knocked on the door. I walked in. I closed the door behind me, and I said, Jim, you don't know me from Adam. I said, I'm Dave Gallagher. I told my wife, I'm giving this one last shot. Please give me an opportunity to stay here as long as possible. And he's listening, and he's looking at me, and I said, I don't care if I make every trip. Even if you don't plan on using me, maybe somebody will want to come out for a rest in the last inning. I'll make the 3-hour road trips in spring training. I'll bat. Now, give me that one at bat. And he listened, and he said, I can't promise you that. Everybody would want that. And I said, but not everybody would ask. I asked.
Oh.
And he said, I will promise you this. When it's done, I will pay attention and see what you can and can't do.
How long until you hit your first home run?
That was actually after I was sent down to the minor leagues. When I got called up, if you remember, I said that plane flight, how I was promised myself I was going to be aggressive. The second game after I got called back up to the major leagues, I had a walk-off 11th inning home run for the White Sox upper deck. So I don't think in my whole career I had another ball that far.
Wow.
And it came in the 11th inning, and the whole team greeted me and the manager at
So
home
you won
plate.
the game. Did you win the game?
Walk-off home run, hit the upper deck facade in Old Comiskey Park. That's how old I am. And it bounced back down onto the field. George Bell was playing left field for Toronto. He picked up the ball, gave it to me, and I have that baseball today. And I have the video clip of it. And I watch it all the time just to remember that I was a good player.
Now, this makes me think you have your own baseball academy.
Mm-hmm.
So when children, ages 6 on up, correct?
Yeah.
Come in, for training of any sort, you have the beginner to the advanced athlete.
Yes.
That it's almost as though you could relate to each stage of development there.
That's such a good question, and I thank you for asking me that because it gives me a chance to explain. I think that is the biggest value that I can give a kid, and the biggest value I was given through the game, and not even because I wanted it to be. The fact that I was traded so many times to 7 different major league teams.
Does that do anything to your psyche?
I'm secure enough with myself to understand that, or at least I choose to believe, they traded for me because they wanted me as opposed to the other team trying to get rid of me.
Okay.
But I really think that, knowing baseball, that was the case. I was typically traded to a team that was in contention heading into playoffs, and I made sense. I wasn't a 5-year, multi-million-dollar player. I was easy to acquire, easy to pay. I wasn't, money, even the minimum is fantastic now, so I'm not complaining. But was easy for a team to pick up. I could play all 3 outfield spots. I could pinch hit. I could pinch run. So I had value to a contending team, but not much value to a team that's not contending anymore. So I would always seem to get traded like in August.
So that's kind of where your talent lied.
Yeah, and back to your question about, I do feel like I can relate to, I was an everyday player. And I batted over 300 a couple of times, so I can relate to the player who considers himself, above average talent. But then I became a role player. I can relate to the player who is not starting on his team. I do remember what it feels like to have 0 confidence and still have to go perform. And I can remember what it feels like to have a lot of confidence and believe in yourself. So I see it in all the kids' faces, and I can talk to them through that.
You know where they're at.
I've had the experience. Yeah. Now I watch these kids because I have a league. I have a fall league, a spring league. There's close to 30 teams in the league. They're all travel teams. And I listen to what goes on down there and the way the coaches are screaming at the kids. A kid drops a ball at second base and he's yanked off the field and told to go sit in the dugout.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's pressure.
On these
to
little
me,
ones.
it's an unhealthy atmosphere.
Right.
So what you're talking about, that story, was me, just like you said, just trying to make the kid understand this is fun. This is relaxing. We can't.
It's not the end of the world if you.
And we can't sprinkle a kid at our academies with talent dust. They have what they have. So let's make the game fun, give them good information, and try to get them to play to their best ability, and most of all, love the game. I think one of the better things that we teach at both academies, I also have one out in Hamilton, is as a staff, whether it's the softball or the baseball, is that failure is a huge part of this game. The amount of thinking that is needed in this game, especially as the levels get higher and higher, the ability to feel the mistake you've just made, whether it was throwing a pitch or swinging a bat. You have to be able to feel what happened, know exactly what it is, and know how to fix it. Now, if you get emotional, anger or frustration, even excitement, that blocks your ability to make even a common sense adjustment.